Welcome to Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women, the podcast that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth. Here's your host, Gary Wilson.
Hello, everyone. This is Gary Wilson, and welcome to this week's episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. So welcome aboard. Chances are you're a chiropractor, you're a dentist, you're an engineer, you're a pilot, possibly military, a teacher. Those are the folks that tend to be attracted to this. And what this is about is, real estate investing is obviously what draws us together. But the reality is most of us are already in some other field. And chances are you may own a business. You may own your own practice if you're a chiropractor or orthodontist, for example, or massage therapist or holistic medicine business. The point is this, we recognize that real estate investing is not the end game. It's simply the foundation upon which we can launch other businesses. So if you've got a practice already, really the ultimate game here is leveraging that practice to buy some income producing assets that provide passive income that you can then roll back into, expand your business or build other related businesses. We obviously also invest ethically, honorably in our areas we invest in. We want it to be win-win for the neighborhood, win-win for the tenants, and of course, win-win for us, the owners. And if you do want to join the community, go ahead and just go to myinvestmentservices.com. You'll see there's different options. Just click on members area and just choose the one that's right for you. There's different levels. Just dip your toes in water if you want. Just get started, because there's thousands of us out there, guys. This is not the no money down owner financing stuff. Okay, that has its place. This is not the place for it. Okay. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, please feel free. It's on iHeart Music, iTunes, 75 different channels, Stitcher, for example. So go ahead and subscribe if you like, and be part of this awesome community we got going on. It's been about 4 years now, and it's really started to take off lately. So what I like to do is bring on guests from different genres. Some have invested, some have not. I've had a number of guests who haven't invested in real estate, at least like aggressively like I have, but they're really good at their business, and sometimes they offer products and services that help all of us in our related businesses. So I want to bring on Len Giancola today. He's a member of a mastermind group I'm in called Abundance. We've been at it for about 6 years total. I've been in it for almost 5 years. And Len joined right after me. And the tagline is healthy, wealthy, generous men who seek to lead epic lives. And we certainly do that. And Len's a shining example of that model. Great family man, good husband, good father, and an awesome entrepreneur. So Len, welcome aboard, man.
Thanks, Gary. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad. I appreciate you taking your valuable time. I know you're a busy person. Entrepreneurs were constantly juggling 3 or 4 balls. So this is a real privilege for me to have you on. And if you could, some people may recognize your name because you've got a new business out there in the cannabis business. But just in case, would you mind just giving people like a story, paint a picture like who you are? I know where you came from, the New York City area, and I love it up there. But maybe give them just a little bit of a flavor about who you are, because then we get into the content, I think they'll be able to relate with you a lot more easily. Is that a good, fair question to ask you?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Let me give you a quick summary of how I've gotten to where I am, I guess, and then we can dive into the details. Okay. So grew up in Staten Island, New York, and my parents did the corporate thing. They were traditional corporate employees, and I did the traditional schooling thing. I went to a prestigious high school, went to a great college, graduated with a Bachelor of Finance, and my dad got my foot in the door on Wall Street. And it was in the securities lending end of the business, which was basically clearing short sales for hedge funds, for those who are not familiar with that, which you probably aren't. And basically, once I got my foot in the door, I busted my butt to just go through the ranks, and I ascended rather quickly, was very blessed, and became the youngest managing director in the Americas for my firm at a very young age. Was making a 7-figure income at a very young age. But I knew that if I'm making the company millions upon millions of dollars, I selfishly wanted that money for myself. And I retired at a young age, at about 33 years old, moved my family down to Florida, and became a serial entrepreneur, I guess, and a professional investor, if you will. So for the last 15 to 16 years, I've been down in Florida, and I've built several businesses that I'm sure we'll dive into. And they're all over the map, a lot in real estate, a lot out of real estate, and happy to talk about that with you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And it's funny because so many of us have so much in common. Same thing, man. Corporate world, corporate gig, 18 years. I feel bad now because I didn't retire until I was 40. I guess I'm a late bloomer. but I tell you what, it felt like every day, the more they promoted me, Len, the more I disliked it. It's just craziest dynamic. But in any case, I appreciate you sharing that background. A lot of us have that gene flowing through our blood. So if you could, let's talk a little bit about the real estate first and give some people some ideas on some of the things you did, maybe one or two projects, and if you had a particular strategy that you liked, or a particular area, maybe expand on that, because I want to position this so that later on, when we talk about these other businesses you have, it'll make more sense and people can see that real estate, like for me, it kind of lost its luster a while, but I still love it. I make a lot of money from it. But what it did is allow me to pursue other things I have far more passion for. So let's talk about the real estate first, and we'll move into the other businesses. If you don't mind, just a couple examples of a flip, a wholesale, anything you think that would add value,
Sure. So when I moved down to Florida, let's back up. When I was up in New York, real estate was not a focus of mine in any way. Neither was investing. Basically, my whole life was the financial industry. So when I moved down to Florida, I saw an opportunity, and you're going to see a theme in a lot of my answers is access to opportunity. And once you get that access, what do you do with it? So I saw an opportunity that there was a lot of vacant land in premium spots in 2003, 4, 5 in Northeast Florida. And Northeast Florida wasn't a destination. Besides St. Augustine as an old historic town, the beaches between Jacksonville and Daytona were not even known. So there was an area called Palm Coast, Florida, which I bet many of your listeners have never even heard of. And my father bought a parcel of land to build his retirement home on, and I never heard of it. And I said, let me go check out where Dad's building his house. And we went down there, and I saw this brand new community that was being developed literally on the ocean with all vacant lots. So I started doing some research. I had no background in real estate whatsoever. One of my partners had a little construction background. And what we did was we said, how can we solve a problem here? Because the problem is it's vacant. It's not getting built out very quick, but it's a gem of a location. What we did is we hired a local GC and we designed a floor plan on a napkin in a bar. That's no joke. And literally took it to a local architect. He made it become reality. We got our permits. We went to a local GC and we built our first spec home, which was second row off the ocean in a community called Cinnamon Beach in Palm Coast, Florida. Well, as luck would have it, we won the parade of homes for the best design, and we sold the spec house, and it was the highest price sale in the community's history at that point, and to this day is the highest non-oceanfront sale 15 years later at price. We sold it for $1.2875.
Wow. Back then.
And made a beautiful profit on that. And then we said, whoa, wait a second. People like our style. We come from the north. We have a little giddy up in our step that's a little different than the southern complacency that you find a lot of times. And everybody down here was a good old boy. And we came with that New York mentality of fast. I talk fast. I walk fast. I get things done quick. Yep. And that was refreshing because a lot of the people down here are transplants from big metros, and they wanted to speak the same language. So what we did is we said, hey, wait a second, let's become custom home builders. Let's not use a local GC. Let's do it ourselves. So we did that, and we started building custom for people. And I ended up over the last several years after that, I built about 75 high-end homes on the ocean or close to the ocean in Northeast Florida in about 11 different communities. So that became a huge revenue stream. But then what we saw, and this answers your question of a little tidbit that could be helpful to your listeners, we created the revolving door theory. So the revolving door was, if you're a realtor and you just go sell a house, you did that one transaction and the relationship's over till they buy again or sell, right? Well, what we wanted to do is create multiple streams of income with that one client. So we created a retail real estate company. So they would buy the land from us. I was the builder. They would build with me. And then it was a second home area where people rented the homes and weren't there full time. So we started a vacation rental business. We were the only company in Florida to have retail real estate, custom home building, and vacation rentals under one roof at that time. And now I created multiple streams. So they buy the land, build with me, and then I'd manage their home for them after it was complete. So I created all those different income streams. And we called it the revolving door theory because it was just a revolving door of leads. And that was something that was really unique for this area at that time. And it became a multi-million-dollar conglomerate of businesses for us here.
Yeah. Well, I love the model. That's so funny because I did the same thing. My thing was good old fashioned blocking and tackling, building up a rental portfolio, flipping homes, did a little wholesaling on the side. But I built a brokerage company too, catering just to the investors. And it turns out they needed property management. So I said, I'll launch that. I always encourage people to get title insurance. We'd be crazy not to get title. So I offered that. And then also had an appraisal business. So because people are constantly, refinancing stuff like that. Yep. So you're right. It's like the theory, by the way, for all the listeners, actually came from the banking world back in the 80s when Reagan deregulated banking. They turned from an interest spread business to a fee-based business. And so they offered multiple products, lines of business to the same client. And that's where that whole principle came from. So awesome strategy, Len. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, I actually claimed Florida as my legal U.S. residence. I'm not there a lot, although it is technically my home. And that whole stretch of coast you described there, you're spot on. I drove it one time, and I used to have an aunt that lived in Smyrna Beach, New Smyrna. And then up north of there, you're right, it was just like vast swaths of land. And one of my college roommates, he's kind of famous in my world because I talk about his name, Socrates, who's my college roommate. Dad was a Greek immigrant, huge investor. When Soc left Virginia, moved down to Florida, this is back like almost 30 years ago, started buying lots the way, like second row, like you said, he was like, so the beach road, he was on the other side of the beach road. Man, he was paying $11,000 for those building lots way back then. Unbelievable. So I just want to emphasize to people that, opportunity abounds when you're awake and open to it. People say, well, you can't do that now because all the beachfront properties. That's not true. There's still lots of beachfront properties and areas in Florida that aren't developed, and around the coast, Texas, and it's just amazing. Even North Carolina, there's places there that is just not developed yet. So just always be awake and alert and listen to what Lenny's telling you, because he's telling you a story, but there's a lesson in the story. You know what I mean? So Lenny, if you could, the time frame there, let's talk about time frame. You mentioned go back 15, 16 years. So this would have been probably right after the tech bubble, right? What year 2000? Is that about right? And then leading into maybe going up to about 1 or 2 years ago, or so talk about that. How did that affect your business? Like in the recession, it sounds like you just kept on chugging along. I mean, I did. In fact, my greatest growth spurt was during the recession, but what's your take on the timing, like the time frame, peak market, bottom of the market, that type of thing,
Sure. So I'm going to combine that answer with also being ahead of the trend. So I moved down to Florida in 2005, and we started planning this business. We built that first spec home I described earlier in 2006. And then that sold, I believe, in 07. And then all of a sudden, 08, the crash started happening, right? Mm-hmm. That's exactly when we started our custom home building business. The nice thing was we were so refreshing to everybody, and we were in an area where the recession didn't affect our client as much. These were people who were purchasing high-end second homes. Okay, so this wasn't their life savings for their one little cookie cutter house. This was play money for them. And during the recession, those people were affected a lot less. So our business actually boomed during 09, 10, 11, 12 were my best years. And just like you said, happened to you, it was word of mouth. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the quality of our product, the enjoyment of the experience of dealing with us, whatever it was, that combination. Mm-hmm. We soared during that time while a lot of other builders floundered because they were buying up tracts of land. And those people that were tract builders, nobody was buying those homes. But guess what? The people with money were still buying beachfront vacation homes because they can.
Yeah.
So we took advantage of that. So like I said earlier, again, I'm going to keep repeating it, access to opportunity. And how do you take advantage of that unique opportunity? We had a unique opportunity in a very unique community, and we maximized that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the thing is, what happened is the media just gets people in such a funk. They just think, well, the economy's down, everything stinks. That's not necessarily true. I mean, two things. Number one is you have to look at the numbers. So real estate transaction sales volume in the recession of the worst years dropped 25%. And that's kind of dramatic. But what does that mean? Well, that means 75% of the business is still chugging along. You just got to decide, are you going to be part of the 25 or part of the 75, right?
Correct.
The other thing too is wherever there's adversity, there's always opportunity. It's just a natural force of business and nature and life. And we've heard it before, that time frame showed us the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of the human race. The money didn't disappear. It just shifted from one pocket to another. Hey, while you're listening, just a quick note that we do have the venue secured for our next 3-day event. That is in August 23rd, 24th, 25th. That's a Friday, Saturday, and half a Sunday up in Boston, Massachusetts. Awesome time of year to be there. It's going to be at the Hyatt Regency in Cambridge. That's 575 Memorial Drive, Cambridge, 02157. Now, we're going to put this in the show notes. So those of you who would like to register, just look in the show notes for the registration link, and you can go ahead and register. In any case, I look forward to seeing you there. Come get some lobster. Come see a Sox game. It's the weekend before Memorial Day, so why don't you make a trip of it and go out to the Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. Man, go up to Old Orchard Beach, Maine. But the main thing is come to learn and earn and network with everyone else in the organization here. We're only doing this twice this year, as far as we know. So here's your opportunity. Come on aboard, ramp up your game, get in the game if you're not in the game yet. But more importantly, have some fun. Learn how to leverage what you're already doing to generate additional streams of income, particularly when it comes to your practice and your own investing in real estate. Okay, back to the show. Take care. So in any case, let's move forward here later. I want to talk about some of the things you're doing now. You've had a couple businesses and kind of reflect on how what you did has given you the skills, the mindset, the heart and soul, and also maybe even some capital to be able to launch other businesses. And you can kind of lead up to what you have going on right now if you want to do that and talk about that a little bit, because that may also help a lot of people,
Sure. So I guess it was a progression through the last 15 years. It was a progression of thinking bigger. And even though I was doing well with those businesses I described in the revolving door scenario, one by one, I began to exit them probably 2000, I don't know, somewhere between 14 and 16 and 17, I exited everything. Mm-hmm. So first I exited the real estate company. I sold that. Then I pretty much wound down the custom home building company, and a gentleman that worked for me kind of took over and started his own company, and I mentored him a little bit. Still do some business with him, which is great. And then I sold the vacation rental company last year for a very lucrative exit. We built up a really beautiful business over 8 years. And then I started thinking, I've had several 7 and 8 figure companies. Now I want to go for the big time. It's time to create a legacy. How can I do that?
Right.
And different opportunities fell in my lap and different opportunities I pursued. And what that led to was building tech platforms in the cannabis space, believe it or not. I know it's a complete 180 from what we're talking about, but we had the opportunity through Pete Cook, who's a fellow GoBro and one of my best friends and business partners. And he had an opportunity to get the domain pot.com, which is probably the top 3-letter domain on the planet, except for one other one. Can you guess what the number one domain value-wise is on the planet? 3 letters, Gary.
If it wasn't pot, I'm not sure.
Sex.com, believe it or not, is the number one most valuable. But pot.com is right behind it. But in the cannabis industry, and that's pot.com basically is a very long story, but that's going to focus on the recreational side of things as that becomes more legal. So that's on the shelf right now.
Okay. And
we acquired MJ.com. MJ is a very well-known short term for marijuana. And there's a bunch of companies that use the moniker MJ. And we acquired MJ.com. So now we had the top 2-letter and top 3-letter domain in the cannabis industry that are worth a very large amount of money just for the domains. We've had incredible offers before we even launched. Now here we are, and we're actually launching MJ.com this week on a soft launch. And I don't know when this will air, but 4/20 of 2019, we'll have a full marketing blowout for MJ.com. And basically, it's a lead generation platform in the cannabis industry. And why does the cannabis industry need that? Because they cannot, all these businesses that pop up cannot traditionally advertise because it's not federally legal.
Okay.
So we are not trying to be a stoner site. We're not about that. We're about the professional and medical end of the industry, but we'll also promote any business that's in the industry. We have over 100 million followers in our network. So we're utilizing, what are the 3 biggest things on the planet right now? Amazon for online shopping, social media, right? Instagram, let's say, Facebook, and cannabis is the most talked about industry right now. So we're combining all three of those. Our social media reach, like I said, is our power network's over 100 million people and followers and eyeballs. And that's the holy grail to these businesses. Plus the online shopping, because you're going to be able to purchase products right online on mj.com. And then obviously the cannabis industry. So we have a really unique platform here, and we're also launching 5 or 6 ancillary platforms that go with that, and we have something that we believe is a possible 10-figure business. So we're super excited.
Wow. Well, it's interesting you mentioned. I appreciate you explaining that too. And what I want to emphasize with people is this: years ago when this whole thing started, I wasn't really getting it, so to speak. And then I met up in one of my other mastermind groups. I met a guy named Doug Bench. Everybody write this down, and Lenny, you too. I'll make an introduction for you. The guy lives in Florida. Doug Bench. He's a former Ohio judge. Get that, a judge with a last name Bench.
Benns, right?
Bench, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I know a Doug Benz that I'm dealing with, but it's
really?
Ben, Benns. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, he wrote a book. What happened is he had, I think it's called fibromyalgia. What is it? Please forgive me for tearing that term apart. In any case, heart disease. And this is years ago, and he tried everything, and the man was dying. And his wife did some research and came across cannabis, and she said, honey, listen, you got to get this stuff if people are their lives are being saved from it, and with people in your condition. Well, they finally would travel. They started traveling back and forth to Colorado where they could get medicinal cannabis. And by the way, for everybody listening, just know that it's not, this judge is not smoking a joint and getting stoned. They extract out the medical component, the components that are medically beneficial. And he, I think, ingested it, and it started working. So they literally moved to Colorado. And to this day, he's cured. I've known him for years now. Well, he wrote a book about it. I'm battling my brain to figure out I can't remember the name of the book. It's about how the brain works, actually. But if you look up Doug Bench, and Lenny, I'll make an introduction for you. I'll get his email address and introduce you guys, because I think he could really be a tremendous spokesperson for what you're doing. And the fact that he's a retired judge, and he says, Gary, I'm a believer in this. And so every time this subject comes up, I mention him and direct people to read his book. It's an amazing story. And just like anything in life, there's always the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. And we can extract out the good from this natural product the earth gives us and help a lot of people. People just got to get past the mindset thing. So in any case, an amazing story, and I appreciate you sharing that. Now, what are your future plans? I know this, you're just starting. And by the way, I'll see if I can get this timed to be launched either the week before or the week after. It comes out on Wednesdays, this podcast. I'll make sure I put in the notes to guys so they know this. It can help you out a lot. But what are you looking at next? I mean, have you started thinking beyond the horizon, or what's your heart telling you?
Yep. Well, I'm all about, I went from think bigger to think biggest. And I say the term think biggest a lot. And not only think biggest, but think fastest. Mm-hmm. So I see a lot of people preach out there, whether it's buy real estate or put your money in a mutual fund, whatever, get those 6 to 8 to 10% returns every year. And over 30 years, you'll compound some nice wealth. Well, dude, I don't have 30 years. I don't want to wait 30 years. Yeah. So I am wired to go and hit the gas pedal all day, every day. That's just the way I'm wired. And I understand that's not everybody, but I want to go as big as I can, as fast as I can, every single day. So right now, I don't need to have a 30-year plan. I don't even have a 10-year plan. I don't even have a 5-year plan. I have a now plan. And the plan right now is to launch these platforms. I already know the feedback. I already know the amount of revenue and clients we have in the door. This is going to change my life, and it's going to create a legacy for generations of my family to come. And that's always been my goal. I want to do something special with this life. And when I get to a certain level, which I'm at a certain level now, I can help a lot more people. And I truly enjoy all the messages I get. I can't believe how many messages and calls and emails I've gotten in the last year since I've been involved in this, and people start hearing my name. It's just super, I don't know what the word is. I'm just grateful that people think enough of me to even want to talk to me or hear my story, and I can help so many people, and I truly enjoy helping people. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. And you probably just answered my last question. I always like to wrap things up with the big why, like what drives you, what makes you tick. I mean, I know you've got a great family. You guys have a lot of fun together. You teach your children yourself, which I think is amazing. I just, I'm not opposed to education. I'm very pro education. It's just, unfortunately, our mainstream system has been so politicized and bureaucratic. It's just like the good of the children has become almost an afterthought. I hate to say it because my ex-wife was a public school teacher. My both grandmothers are teachers, uncle's a teacher, and they'll tell you the same. They've seen that over the years. It's just eroded, and there's no way for children to shine in that system. It's very difficult. So what if you don't mind? We got a few minutes here. We're doing okay on time. Talk a little bit about that because I'm an entrepreneur through and through myself. I'm not against big corporate America. I'm not against anything. What I'm for is people pursuing their dreams and getting after it, because this thing we call life, guys, it's not like a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing. And every day matters, every moment matters. And I'm like you, Lenny, my thing, people ask me how much or how big. I'm like, I really can't come up with a number because then I would be limiting myself. To me, it's infinite. As long as I'm breathing, I'm going to keep growing. But talk a little bit about if you don't mind, your family, particularly your children, and the legacy that you're developing for them and how they're actually already participating in the entrepreneurial world. I want people to understand you really do. You're authentic and genuine. You walk the talk,
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I'd love to spend a minute or two on that. So I have two daughters. They're currently, my one daughter will be 18 in a couple of weeks, and I have a 14-year-old. And about 4 years ago, when they were about 14 and 10, let's say, they heard, money was never a taboo subject in our household. At the dinner table, my wife, Marnie, and I, we talk about money in front of the kids. We talk about finances. We talk about our investments. We talk about our businesses because she's my partner in all that, right? So the kids hear that. And they came to us when they were about 14 and 10, and they said, Mom, Dad, how do we get involved? How do we learn that? Because we're not learning that in school. And we basically we went on a family mastermind weekend, we called it, and we went over everything. They read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and they had to read it separately and do a independent presentation to us. So I know they read it, and they did the adult version. There were some things they didn't understand, some terms, and we helped them with that. But for the most part, they did. And then they created an LLC that they own 50-50. All decisions have to be unanimous. And they had some money saved up from side hustles and gifts for, think about it, 14 and 10, that's 24 combined years of birthday, confirmation, communion gifts, little graduation gifts. They pulled that in their account and had some stock accounts and some 529 plans. They withdrew all that money, their own money, none from mom and dad, and they put it into an LLC account and started investing. And they've invested in a vacation rental company, a distressed debt fund. They've done hard money loans. They've invested in some of the tech platforms I mentioned earlier. And they now have a higher net worth than the average 45-year-old in the United States at their age right now. And they've made an incredible amount of money in the last couple of years for their age. College is not on their radar. They are entrepreneurs, and they are starting several little platforms of their own. They're actually, one of my daughters is going to a film school. She had one of her first short films she directed end up in the finals of the Miami Film Festival 2 years ago. So she's trying to follow that while her passive income and investment can fund that dream, because we're all realistic, realizing that the film industry is not easy to succeed in, and the chances are remote to even be really successful in that. But you know what? At her age, she can give it a shot because she has that passive investment income to fund taking a chance, right?
Yeah.
So we are big about including them. Our goal is, after this legacy stuff happens in the next couple of years, we've already set up a foundation where we're going to help people. And the two things that we love right now are military vets and kids. And those are our heartstring pulls. And we're going to focus the foundation on that. And I'm sure we'll expand it from there once we, are able to fund it the proper way.
Wow. Well, that's pretty awesome. You touched on a couple of key points there, man. I just, really want people to listen and pay attention. In other words, you speak about money easily, and because because if you don't, if it's something that's taboo or something that's like, has people assume it's like evil associated with, that's really not true. What it is money simply becomes a measurement of your success. The real fulfillment is who you become as a person to achieve that level of success. Okay. The money is a measurement, and the money is a medium of exchange. It allows you to pursue these other visions, these other dreams. that's really the mindset I wish all students had. Unfortunately, they don't really, like I didn't get that, Lenny, when I grew up. It was, my one side of the family was wealthy, one side was poor. And I got all kinds of negative stuff from both sides related to money. It took me years to unlearn all that kind of stuff and realize it's a resource, just like relationships, your body, your physical body, your mental, your mind, your spirit, everything God gives us to be responsible for, to be good custodians with. And the more you are a good custodian, the more will come your way. So if you want a lot more money, just help a lot of other people get more money, like you're doing with your business. Perfect example. So I appreciate you sharing that. I hope everybody got a lot out of that last part, because that's, of all the things, Lenny, you and I can talk about, that's probably one of the most important things,
Sure. And I think you definitely touched on that. Money is not evil, right? Money allows you to help so many people and allows you to live a more abundant life, right? So when people are trying to start a business, I'll give one last tidbit here.
Yeah.
You get paid in direct proportion to the difficulty of the problem you solve for somebody. So whatever you're doing, figure out how you can solve a problem that's super important to an amount of people that you can scale that solution to, right? So I started with the first businesses I told you on a small niche in a small community. Now I've branched out to doing a global platform. It took time, but now I'm at that point. Now, once this hits, which is already hit, now I can help so many more people to try and create a legacy for themselves while living an abundant, magic memory experience life with my kids and my wife and their kids eventually, and have that amazing thing. Like, don't you want to stay in a 5-star hotel? Don't you want to fly first class or private? Don't you want to go to the best restaurants? People say that's throwing away money, but when you have a certain amount of money, who cares how much that costs? It's about that experience in a special way with your family, and I'm not afraid to talk about that. In fact, if I can get a plug in, Gary, I've got a podcast coming out it's called All About the Lenjamins, right? So it's all about money, and it's coming out in the next few weeks, and probably when this airs, it'll be out already. And it's just going to really talk about getting rid of that taboo of money and how people like yourself or all the guests I'm going to have on, how did they overcome the hurdle of people hating on the term money, maybe in their own household, maybe in school, wherever it was, and realize that money is freedom. You said it before. It's not about the paper in your hand. It's about the freedom it allows you to do and the experiences you can create and the people you can help.
That's it, man. Well, I'll tell you what, since you mentioned, was there something like people who are intrigued by this, because I can just see it now, you're going to get this is going to help a lot, but how can people get in contact with you, or something you can read, look at online, YouTube? You just mentioned your podcast, because I think that can help a lot of people, whether not just they have to be in the cannabis business, but in their own businesses, in their own lives,
Sure. Well, like I said, the podcast will be called All About the Lenjamins instead of Benjamins. That's my little play on my name. That'll be coming out on iTunes in the next few weeks, so probably when you release this. And my email is linkmasters2015@gmail.com. If anyone wants the email, that's another company that we have, Link Masters, where we basically match party A and party C and get a clip in the middle for matching people because our network is so big. But you're welcome to hit our company there. And if I can help anybody, I'm happy to do so.
That sounds great. Well, listen, Lenny, I'm gonna wrap things up. Hang on the line here for a second. Hey, for everybody listening, this has been one of my favorite ones. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Replay it, take it to heart. There's a lot of good messages in here. And if you slow it down, replay it, take notes, those messages that may seem way up here to you right now, you'll be able to bring them down to earth and implement them yourself. Just think about how you can practice what we've been preaching here. So in any case, again, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and do so. It's real estate investing for professional men and women. It's on 75 different channels. Go to myinvestorservices.com, join the community, because we're all out there. There's thousands of us, and we're not into the no money down stuff. What we're into is really good investing in really good properties and really good areas, and making a good go of it for ourselves and for the community. So in any case, Lenny, I think I speak for a lot of people, man, when I say thank you for sharing your valuable time, energy, expertise, and wisdom. It's been a great experience, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you, Gary, for having me on, and think biggest.
You got it, man. I like the way you wrapped it up. And for everybody here, God bless you and your families. We will see you on the next podcast next week. Okay, take care, and God bless.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Estate Investing for Professional Men and Women. Be sure to go to myinvestmentservices.com to join our community and start building wealth today.